There's a crisis on the border, Adam.
Oh my God. Tell me about it.
Immigrants are coming across the border in record numbers, waves and waves of people, and it doesn't seem like it's stopping or slowing down at all.
Yes, I've seen some photos and they don't look promising.
Yes, we've all seen the photos of a lot of people coming to the border. We've all seen the photos of lots of people lots of migrants that are requesting asylum, are being sheltered in airports, in school gymnasiums, everywhere. And it's becoming a huge problem for not just America, but also the re-election possibilities of one Joe Biden. By the way, and this does seem to be that this wave of immigration is because of Joe Biden's actions and because of getting rid of the Remain in Mexico policy and getting rid of Title 42 and all these other things. And so now that all these immigrants are coming, and it seems to be Joe Biden's fault, he's now rushing to try to fix that to save his chances to be president in this coming election.
Sometimes I look at the news and I'm curious if this is setting me some sort of political agenda or if they're shading the facts. So you're going to let me know exactly what's going on here, right? The truth.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's what I want to get to the bottom of. Though it's interesting, that the immigration has to be a big deal when even not just the right-wing sources of news are complaining about it and talking about it being a big deal. You have everyone in the left-wing mainstream media talking about it being a big deal.
Yes.
So,
they're using it a little bit to beat up on Trump, and that's what makes me skeptical that none of this is real. So I'm glad we're talking about this. I can get the real details here.
Right. So currently in the Senate, we have, as you see on screen, we have Republican Senator Langford of the state of Oklahoma is currently negotiating with Democrats to create a bill that would address the border problem as well as provide funding to Ukraine and Israel. However, even though at first Republicans seem to be on board with the possibility of supporting this legislation, suddenly it seems like most Republicans have turned cold and are saying that they're not going to support it, even though the bill isn't even publicly out yet.
Okay, so now that's strange because Republicans, obviously, immigration is a big deal for them. So any opportunity to get immigration legislation, you think they jump at the chance to do it.
Right. And so there's multiple possibilities for maybe why this is going on. But before we get into that, let's see, we have Senator Langford was on Fox News. And he kind of, even though the bill's not out yet, so we can't read it for ourselves, which will be very important, he kind of gives a rundown on what is going to be in this bill. So let's watch this clip.
Let's listen to him.
Internet rumors is all that people are running on. It would be absolutely absurd for me to agree to 5,000 people a day. This bill focuses on getting us to 0 illegal crossings a day. There's no amnesty. It increases the number of Border Patrol agents. It increases asylum officers. It increases detention beds so we can quickly detain and then deport individuals. It ends catch and release. It focuses on additional deportation flights out. It changes our asylum process so that people get a fast asylum screening at a higher standard and then get returned back to their home country. This is not about letting 5,000 people in a day. This is the most misunderstood section of this proposal. And let me tell you briefly what it is. In the last 4 months, we've had 7 days. In 4 months, we've had 7 days that we had less than 5,000 people. This is set up for if you have a rush of people coming at the border closes down, no one gets in. This is not someone standing at the border with a little clicker saying, I'm going to let one more in. We're at 4,999, and then it has to stop. It is a shutdown of the border, and everyone actually gets turned around.
Okay.
That's the focus that we have right now, is how do we actually intervene in this administration and turn people around, not let people in.
So there may be some initial measurement. You get to that rolling 5,000 in a week, and then it's 0 from that point on. But there is some initial measurement. Our Bill Malugin is reporting that the number would dial back then to about 3,750 a day at the border. And then once you hit that for about 2 weeks, the gates would open again. Can you confirm or deny that?
Yeah, it's not, again, it's not gates opening. That's a misunderstanding of the bill itself. It's how many can we process and actually deport. When you raise the standard for people coming across, when you increase the detention beds, when you increase deportation flights, you're not letting people in. And people are thinking about how the Biden administration is running it now. Right now, the Biden administration is allowing, for instance, 1,500 people a day just to come to the ports of entry, get a work permit, and get released in the country. People coming between ports of entry get what's called a notice to appear and get released in the country. All of that stops. We're focused on how many people can we process quickly and then deport out of the country, not release into the country. It would be absolutely absurd for anyone to be able to propose something to say we're just going to slow the number of releases. We're focused on how do we actually enforce our border and get us back to zero people actually crossing the border illegally. Every administration has struggled to be able to get the authorities in place to be able to actually enforce our border. Let's put them in place.
Okay.
Okay.
That gives us a lot of information there.
Right. So there's a lot of information there. So to just kind of like simplify the way. So the bill isn't public yet, so we don't know the exact specifics, and that will be very key. But it sounds like what he's saying and what the rumors are so far is that basically what's going to happen is a mechanism. Well, let me back up for a second. So people don't realize this, but Border Patrol can't just like find someone in America who's an illegal immigrant. Even if they know they're a legal immigrant, they see them crossing the border. But once they're in America, they can't just be like, hey, I'm going to like arrest you, or I'm going to just like physically pick you up and throw you back into Mexico. They're not allowed to do that by law. Okay.
Okay.
And this was part of what was not discussed when there was all those videos of like, the Border Patrol people like clipping the barbed wire, is because a lot of those fencing is like kind of on the American side of the border, so you're technically already in America when you're like stuck in the barbed wire. And so by law, once they find someone, they have to take them to a detention center to be processed, and then the person's going to request asylum or something to that effect, right?
Right. We're going to start some paperwork on them.
Right, exactly. So but that issue, that's kind of what's creating the big problem, because essentially what happens is people will come from all over the world through South America, through Mexico, and then they'll request asylum, and they'll say some story about how, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, about how, they're fleeing from violence, they're fleeing from the cartel, they're personally, under a threat. And obviously the US government doesn't have the ability to, confirm any of this story, right?
Well, they have hearings, and supposedly they're supposed to bring evidence, but a lot of times they don't have evidence, so those hearings end up deporting them.
Right. Well, and even then, it's still, because there's so many people applying and there's not enough judges, the average is like something like it takes 2 years for a lot of these things to even come into fruition, right?
Yeah. By that time, they own a 7-Eleven.
Right. It's like, yeah, it's like, okay, so you have a bunch of people running around for 2 years, and it's just ridiculous. So what this bill is that Langford and these other people are working on is that when the number reaches an average that 5,000 people are trying to enter America a day, it gives the president the authority to shut down the border. Is my understanding. It gives the president the authority to shut down the border so that there will be 0 people admitted at all. And border agents will have the authority to just escort people back into Mexico. They won't even have to take them in to be detained. They're saying, no, we're not even requesting, if you come into America through not a port of entry, like if you try to sneak in, we're not even going to like look at your request for asylum.
Right. So Border Patrol will deport them immediately.
Yeah, on the spot. Right.
Right. Okay. Interesting. And that gives Biden the ability to do this?
Well, supposedly, this is what the bill's supposed. Now we'll see when the bill comes out eventually, right? But this is what Langford is claiming: the bill would give the Border Patrol and Biden the authority to do this action. Okay,
right.
And then he'll have the authority to do this until the number of people applying at the port of entry normally drops to like, I don't know, like 2,000 or something, right?
And then it goes back to the old system.
And then it would go back to the old system. Okay.
But he's saying the bill is about getting it down to 0 people. Like, that's contentious, obviously, on the Republican side. 2,000 people is still a lot of people.
Right. So, well, Langford's being kind of a little coy here, because like when he says get us down to 0, I guess he means like in the period of time where it's shut down, it would get it down to 0, right? But also, it would also increase, the amount of judges. It would increase the ability for the government to process people faster, so that they're trying to say that they're going to get it down to 6 months instead of 2 years in order to process the people to make the determination to get rid of them or not.
Is that a factor in how long this policy is in effect?
What do you mean?
So if more than 5,000 people a day are showing up at the border, this special policy goes into effect. It's enacted by the president,
right,
where the border will be completely shut down to 0 people.
Yes.
And it will remain at 0 people until they have enough judges to process people within 6 months. Is that?
No. It will remain at 0 until people apply. It's 0 for people not applying through the correct channels.
Right. Okay. So,
and then when the number of people applying through the correct channels gets low enough to like 2,000, then it reverts back to the old system.
The old policies. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
But so then that's like point one. Point two, so point two detached from that is that they're also going to bring a bunch of funding to have a bunch of new judges and new facilities to process these people, so they can try to get down the wait time to do these hearings to 6 months instead of 2 years.
Right. And I saw something that included in the bill was a bunch of new resources for new border agents. And these would be the border agents that deport people immediately, right?
Right. New border agents that could patrol, obviously, the border, the things of that nature. Right.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
Okay. So, I mean, that stuff sounds, now, again, we haven't seen the bill, so, we're taking his word for it. And when the bill comes out, there could be different things. But what's weird about this is that I saw Donald Trump Jr. just kind of made a claim that the bill gave illegal immigrants amnesty, which, as you saw, he said he directly said that that's not true. So I'm not sure where that rumor or that claim comes from. But I saw a lot of people are now on the right who are claiming that the bill just gives them amnesty, and I have no clue what the sourcing for any of this is. And it's unusual because even if the bill isn't going to give the Republicans everything that they want, obviously you have a Democrat president and you have a Democratic Senate. And so there's going to have to be some kind of bipartisan agreement to get any sort of immigration reform passed in this country at this moment.
Right.
And so I understand if the Republicans don't think that it goes far enough, and that's fair. But what's weird to me is that before the bill is even out, all these Republicans are now saying that they're not going to support it. Instead of saying well, let's look at it. And then if there's things we want to change, let's change certain elements of it to make it stricter. Right.
Yeah. This is a spin that I've been seeing. And perhaps Don Jr. is making up the amnesty claim because they don't want Republicans to vote for it, because they don't want Biden to get a win on his belt before the election. They want the immigration to drive people to the polls, obviously, to vote for Donald Trump. So it makes sense that they don't want that Don Jr. and Donald Trump don't want Republicans to vote for immigration reform.
Well, see, and that's there's the two things it seems like going on here. Either A, there is some legitimate concern from Republicans that they know something about the bill and they think that the bill doesn't go far enough or has something in it that's really bad that we don't know about yet because the bill doesn't exist. And that's possible. Or, as you said, scenario B, which also seems very possible, is it's just Donald Trump obviously would like to run on immigration. And if during the election, during November, this immigration crisis is still at an all-time high, that's going to significantly help Donald Trump obviously win.
Yeah.
And so there definitely could be this idea that let's try to convince the Republicans to not do anything or not work with Democrats at all because we want to keep the crisis going until the election.
Right. But we don't know any of this until we see the bill. As soon as we see the bill, we have proof on either side, whether or not Donald Trump is using this for political advantage or whether or not the bill really grants amnesty. But I'm worried we're not going to ever see the bill because they don't really want us to know the truth.
Well, he's saying that the bill is going to come out this week.
Okay.
So we should hopefully get to see the bill. But something else that's like really weird about this whole situation is that Lankford is a senator of Oklahoma. The Republican Party in Oklahoma has censured Lankford because he will not renounce this bill that he's working on before it's even done and out.
That's a little crazy.
Isn't that's so, to me, that was like, this is really suspicious now. Cause I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like you're censoring him for just working on a piece of legislation that's not even, first of all, censoring a person for just working on legislation if you disagree with it is weird. On top was like number one. And number two, you're censoring them before it even comes out. So you don't even know really what's in it. And when it comes out, I mean, you could still theoretically negotiate on this bill to try to change it in some way if there's something about it you don't like.
Politics is a dirty business, Sitch. Politics is a very, very dirty business.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard just because obviously we would like to see this solved as American citizens, right? This immigration crisis is terrifying.
Yeah.
But using it to, as a political football for the next election, why? Why are we in this position?
I know. Well, it's funny because you're going to see, like, my prediction is basically what's going to happen is that because the Republicans are signaling very, very, very strongly right now that they're against the bill, which to me, that's possible. The bill will come out and they'll tweak it a little bit and then support it. So it's definitely possible, but they're so signaling so strongly against it. My feeling is that they're probably going to just refuse to work on this bill whatsoever because of how strong they're against it right now. And the argument's going to be there's going to be some element of the bill that people are going to argue is too weak or doesn't go far enough, and that's going to be the justification to scrap it, which in my mind doesn't make sense because, again, you have to if you want to fix immigration or even like put a band-aid on immigration right now, currently, there is going to have to be some kind of bipartisan compromise here. And I don't see how doing nothing is better than doing something at the moment, something that will help to some extent, right?
Yeah, we've reached crisis level. We've got to do something. Whatever is in the bill that they can claim is weak, they are going to brand as amnesty, even though it doesn't look anything like amnesty. Like they're already positioning themselves to do that. And as long as they have the magic amnesty word, they immediately get out of having to pass it.
Yeah, though, and here's what's going to be funny, though. So you're going to see, well, there's a couple things that are really funny about this. You're going to see the Democrats are going to magically turn on a dime and become the border hawks, right? Because, like, we've had for years the Democrats were like, oh, the border's fine, border's fine. They're magically going to be like, we need to pass this really important, border control issue to, like, stop the illegal immigrants. Like, and the Republicans are stopping us. They're magically now that the Republicans are against them on this issue, they're going to become the most hawkish people on the borders. Watch, that's what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks.
Are they going to spin it as the Republicans want cheap labor again? They probably will.
They might spin it like that. And I think they're going to spin it as Donald Trump is controlling the Republican Party and getting them to basically sacrifice the health of the country in order to, run on this issue in the election. And
well, I guess we're going to see later this week when we see the bill, right?
Yes. Well, that's the thing. And maybe the bill come out and we'll go, oh, this bill sucks, right? Republicans are right. But we'll see. But another thing that's kind of funny about this is that this has kind of like put the Republicans and Joe Biden in the exact opposite situation that they were in the Houthi rebels. So if you remember, Joe Biden, he fired missiles at the Houthi rebels, and a lot of people in Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, were saying, oh my God, Joe Biden has to ask Congress for military approval. How dare he? And Joe Biden said, no, I don't. I'm the president. I can do whatever I want. And now it's the reverse. Joe Biden is like, oh, Congress, you need to give me the authority to do this so I can shut down the border. And the Republicans in Congress are saying, Joe Biden doesn't need our authority. He can just do it himself.
Right. Is this bill specially crafted to give him the authority? I've heard some reporting where the bill is designed to force him to do something about the border.
Well, yeah, I think my understanding, well, we don't know because the bill's not out yet, but my understanding is that the bill, it will just say once immigration reaches this point,
You must act.
This must happen. So it's not even
Okay.
like he has the authority to, it just must happen. Now, the one other thing I want to say is I saw some tweets and I saw people talking about this, that they're claiming that Biden already has the authority right now to close the border. Okay.
Right.
And I was kind of looking into this and talking to some other people about this. And there's this law that, and let me read to you real quick. It says, whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or any class of aliens in the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. So
Okay.
basically, this law came up when Trump did the Muslim ban, and the Supreme Court did rule on it. And even though like the Trump team had to keep rewriting the Muslim ban to kind of like make it be more legal, the Supreme Court did rule that this law gives the president pretty broad authority to basically control and shut down the border to a large extent. There's still a question about whether this law would allow you to turn off all like requests for asylumship completely, which is, I believe, still unclear. And so this new law that they're talking about would maybe fix those problems. But I definitely think that if the Republicans don't work with the Democrats on this bill, Joe Biden could do something. I don't know if he will. I don't know how smart his team is, but I think he could attempt to do something. He could attempt to close the border on his own, which in my opinion would help with his political career, because then he'd be like, look, I'm strong. I'm a strong leader. I did what had to be done. Take me to court if you want, to fight me on this. But I'm not sure that he has the balls to take such an action.
It will hurt. It will help him with moderates and independents. It might hurt him with his base. So.
Yeah, it will hurt with the very left progressives, and it'll hurt with the young people because they'll say, this is racism, blah 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 blah.
Young people, I think, are essential to his winning the next election. So
maybe.
Any final thoughts?
And that's it.
Hi, you just listened to a Sitch and Adam recorded video. That's right, we're doing Monday through Friday deep dive recorded videos now. And of course, we're still doing our live streams. Our live streams are on Sunday and Tuesday starting at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And you can super chat us, or you can join the channel. Subscribe to this channel right here to watch the live show or watch more of our awesome deep dive videos.